Hi, I'm Kelsey from roughandtumblefarmhouse.com, and today I'm going to share with you all the equipment that I use for milking my cow and my goats. So I'm a hand milker at our farm. We just don't have the infrastructure set up for using machine milking, but I do have the equipment here for machine milking, so we'll go look at that as well. But first, I'm just going to cover the basics you need for hand milking. So let's start at the beginning. Before you milk your animal, you're going to have to sanitize their teats. And so for that, I don't have it here, but I just have a small stainless steel bowl that I put some water in mixed with a teat sanitizing solution. So I have this huge jug of udder wash that I use. You can also use an iodine-based solution, and some people just like to use dish soap too. But since we do consume our milk raw, and we also have some friends that drink our milk raw as well, when it comes to sanitizing the teats, I just like to pull out the big gun. So this bottle of this particular solution I think is around $4, and this is going to last me well over a year, so it's not very expensive at all to have the sanitizing solution. And then in terms of rags, you can use reusable rags. I have in the past, but I already cloth diaper and I have a lot going on, so I just use paper towels for sanitizing the teats. So paper towel, a dish to put it in. You can also use bottles. They have spray bottles that spray upwards, so when you spray the bottle, it shoots up to clean the teats. But I have found, especially with the cows, that if they go and lay in a cow pie or something, the amount of spraying you have to do is just, it's too much. So if you have a little bucket of water, you can really soak the cloths for really cleaning off the teats. So that's how I personally like to do it. Next thing you're going to need is something to collect your milk in. This is a small stainless steel bucket. This is, I believe this is a gallon sized, and maybe a little bit bigger. And this is what I use for my goats. For my cows, I have a much larger bucket because they give a lot more milk, obviously. So you want stainless steel, you want food grade. Stainless steel, you're able to clean the milk fats off of. So I really do not recommend milking into a plastic bucket, even if it is food grade, because you just can never really get it as clean as you need to when you're handling raw milk. They also have buckets that have lids on them, and those are really handy if you're milking more than one goat, because you can milk into one bucket and then have another bucket down in the barn that has a lid, so you can just transfer milk into the other bucket. So you have kind of one that's under the goat and one that just has the clean milk. The next thing you need for your milk is a way to filter it. So I have seen folks that just use like cheesecloth for filtering, and that's fine if you want to go that route. Personally, I think a strainer is not that expensive, and they're really nice to have because you can pour a lot more milk in there at one time and let it filter while you're kind of cleaning up other stuff or getting other things going in the kitchen. So this is the filter that I have. I honestly don't know where it came from because it was a hand-me-down from some friends who decided they didn't want to milk animals anymore. But again, it's stainless steel, and then it has just this little plate that goes in there. And then actually this is technically the strainer, not the filter. And then the filters you have to get separately, and these are disposable. And so I use these Schwartz Filter Clean milk filters. You can get them on Amazon, you can get them from Layman's, all sorts of places. And so it's just a little kind of gauzy round that goes inside here, and then this goes on top of that and presses in, and that's how you filter your milk. Typically in terms of storing milk, I just use half-gallon size mason jars, and I use the two-piece lids, so the metal lid with the ring. Don't reuse ones, because if you reuse like an old salsa lid, you're going to have funky tasting milk. So just use new lids every time. You can also use the white lids, the white kind of cap lids. The only negative about those is that they will leak. So if you're having to move milk around, if you knock over a milk jar or something in the fridge, you're going to have milk spill out. So that's the one negative about the plastic, and I feel like you just get a better seal and longer freshness if you're using the two-piece metal lids. All right, so I have a bottle goat that I need to go feed, and when we do that, I will take you down and also then show you the equipment you would need for machine milking your animal. And one more important item I almost completely, well, no, I did forget, but I'm still including it, is a good brush for cleaning out your milk buckets. You don't want to use a sponge or a washcloth or anything like that, because they really aren't the greatest at dispelling bacteria and for getting rid of milk solids. So a good stiff bristled brush, have one to use on the inside of your milk bucket and then one you use on the outside, and ne'er the two shall meet. So make sure you keep the two separate. And then I also run them through the dishwasher at least once a week to make sure they're super sanitized. So before we get into what you actually need to machine milk in terms of equipment, it's important to know that you really need to have a certain type of infrastructure to actually machine milk. So we don't machine milk at my farm because we just do not have the infrastructure. So we have electricity, but beyond that, we've got nothing. So you need to have running water, you need to have hot water, you need to have sinks of some type, that drain somewhere, not just sinks that are sitting there. Obviously, they have to function. There's quite a few things that we just don't have here that make machine milking not really feasible. We could haul the milk pump back and forth to the house, but it just, with one cow and just a couple goats, it doesn't really make sense. Now, once you have more than one cow, if you're milking 2 cows like we're going to be soon, a machine might make more sense, but the time it takes to clean them out really kind of negates almost the speed that you're gaining by machine milking versus hand milking. I have a whole post about machine milking versus hand milking on the blog, and I'll link to that below. So this is what a milking machine looks like that you would use for machine milking, or this is actually the can that you're going to be putting your milk into and the claw that goes onto the animal. I don't have the actual pump here because the one we have is 4,000 years old and weighs 8,000 pounds. And so we actually still have it at the farm that gave it to us because we haven't been using it. But I do have, like I said here, the milk canister here. As you can tell, it's all dusty and gross looking. And obviously, if you're going to be milking your animals, these things need to be kept spick and span, spotless, free of dust, free of mice, free of all that stuff. But this whole system, if you buy one of these, it's going to come with everything you need, including obviously the actual physical pump that's going to be creating the suction. So they cost between $500 to $1,500 depending on what you're getting. Please do not buy plastic. Don't ever buy just plastic machinery. Always stainless steel. There is, of course, some plastic you see here. So these are the pieces. This comes off and then goes onto the cow or the goat. And then these are the parts that go onto the teats. So there are some things that, depending on if you're buying new or used, these hoses and these things, there's a gasket inside here as well that keeps it sealed for suction. There are some of those parts that you probably will need to replace at some point, so that is something to keep in mind in terms of equipment. Now, like I talked a little bit about earlier, if you're going to be machine milking, it takes a lot longer to clean them out, and there are solutions that you run through your machine to make sure that it is sanitary. So I have one of them here I can show you in a minute. We do have an acid rinse. So typically you run it through a rinse cycle, and then you run it through a chlorinated washing solution, and then after that you run it through a sanitizing solution, and there's usually rinses in between each one. So what is that, 1, 2, 3, 4 at least. So 4 cycles you're going to have to run it through to sanitize everything, because you do have all those tubes and little nooks and crannies and things that need to get sanitized. So those are other things you're going to need to buy. I didn't mention when I was talking before about hand milking is you might choose to use a teat dip on your animals. So a teat dip is a solution that after you milk, you just dip their whole teat in that solution, and that helps to disinfect and to close up the orifice, the opening of their teat faster. But since we milk share, the babies are going on with the moms as soon as we're done milking, and so there's really no point in putting that on there because the babies are going to go straight to the teats anyway. So here you can see these are old vestiges from when we did machine milk, which was a couple years ago now. But so here's the teat dip. Like I was saying, again, they come in these big gallon-sized jugs that you can get just at any sort of fleet supply place. Here's the rinse. So if anyone in the neighborhood would like to use a teat dip, you can come and grab ours because we are not going to be using them anytime soon. One other thing that I forgot to mention, sorry, it's just like stream of crazy consciousness here, is that when it comes to your teat sanitizing solution, you're going to have the iodine option, sorry, super windy, the iodine option, or just the other cleaning solution. You want to look at the concentration level to make sure you're mixing it properly. And some can be mixed in advance and just stored in a bottle. Others you have to mix fresh every time because otherwise it loses its efficacy. So that's something to keep in mind when selecting what sort of teat sanitizer you want to use if you want to go that route. All right, so that's it. Whether you decide to machine milk or hand milk, that should give you a better idea of what sort of equipment you are going to need to make that happen. Again, if we had the infrastructure with 2 cows freshening, I probably would machine milk if I could, but it's just not in the cards. So the nice thing about hand milking is really probably less than $100, and you have all the equipment that you need really to safely milk out your dairy animals. So thank you so much for watching. Always check over at the blog for 2 new posts every week, and here at the YouTube channel for a new post every week about farming, family, food, and fortitude here at our rough and tumble farmhouse.